What is your limiting belief? What is the thing that you think about yourself? Maybe your parents or your mother or your father taught you to think that way about yourself. Maybe you went through a horrible breakup and that person made you feel unworthy. Maybe you've had a bunch of setbacks in your life and that's what gave you that limiting belief. But what is your limiting belief? Because today, what we're going to do today is we're going to take it a step further. Now that you've identified your limiting belief, we're going to look at what is it costing you to choose to repeat it. Because remember the quote I started with. You have a choice right now. You get to repeat the things you've always done, or you can evolve them and become more deliberate. Let's talk about the cost of that limiting belief. I'm going to go first. So write down your limiting belief. I see a lot of, I'm not good enough. My mental health is holding me back. I can't run a successful business. I'm lazy and I can't do anything. I'm not healthy enough. Money is the issue. I'm scared to fail. What is the limiting belief that you have? I'm certain it has something to do with not being enough. Once you've written that down, you're afraid of failure. You don't deserve success, all that kind of stuff. I don't know how to start. These are excellent. You're doing an excellent job. The first step to moving from that default into getting deliberate is actually seeing it. So seeing it is fantastic because now we can start to understand that, whoa, this got programmed in. It's my default mode. I want to get rid of it. How do we get rid of it? Well, let's first identify why you want to. Let's take a hard look at the cost of having this limiting belief. So in order to figure out the cost of having the limiting belief, what's my limiting belief? That I'm not a good person. That's my limiting belief. That I am not a good person. That you don't think I'm a good person. That I don't think I'm a good person. And here's what you're going to do in order to identify the cost, okay? You're going to ask yourself 3 questions, and they're very simple. What is this limiting belief in my case that I'm not a good person? What does it cost me in my past to think this way? What is it costing me in this present moment to think that I'm not a good person? And here's the kicker. If I don't evolve this, if I don't get deliberate, what is it going to cost me in the future to continue to think that I'm not a good person? So in the past, thinking that I'm not a good person, it did a bunch of things. First of all, it made me very sad. Secondly, it made me a liar because I assumed that I wasn't good enough and I'm not a good person, so I got to pretend to be somebody else. It also made me cheat on people because I didn't think I deserved love. And it also, by believing that I wasn't a good person, it somehow justified the bad behavior. I mean, if I'm a bad person, then I do bad things, right? What does it cost me in the present to believe that I'm not a good person? Well, it costs me a lot of joy. It costs me connection and friendships because I'm constantly questioning whether or not people actually like me for me. It makes me second guess myself and whether or not I deserve the success. And what does it cost me in the future? It's going to cost me everything. If I continue to repeat this pattern and I continue to allow myself to default to believing that I'm not a good person, I will never be fully happy. I will never be fully present. I probably will not be successful when we launch this new daytime talk show in the fall. And so I got a choice to make, and I want to get rid of this because I can see what allowing myself to believe that I'm not a good person is costing me. This exercise of identifying your limiting belief and then seeing what it's cost you in your past, your present, and your future is so important for you to do that I want to give you another example. So to really, really drive it home, okay? And so I want to bring in my husband. Why don't you scoot on this? I don't know if you can lean in on that thing. You should sit on this chair. I'm going to bring in my husband, Christopher Robbins. Yes, if you've ever been a fan of Winnie the Pooh, his name is Christopher Robbins. And Chris is going to go through this exercise too. And I think it's important for we're sharing a chair here, and so we're like really close. I think it's important for you guys to know that Chris is one of the partners in our media company. He's our CFO, and he's also the founder of a men's retreat called Soul Degree, and he's a yoga instructor and president of the Booster Club. So this is a guy that's like really accomplished. and super amazing. So with that context, founder of Soul Degree, what's your limiting belief?
Well, of course, it would be appropriate. That I think forever it's just been that I'm not good enough. I think that's it, succinctly, that I'm not living up. And certainly in the past, it's been all around the decisions I've made career-wise. Never thinking that I was in fact good enough, which just took away from, I suppose, all the joy that I could have had.
Were you really sad when you were little?
Yeah, I think I was just down and out, probably feeling alone, and like the decisions I had made along the path were not the right ones, and then that subsequently not performing, and or at least not performing to my own expectation.
So how has not feeling good enough? I can see how it would make you feel sad, especially, there's so much pressure on men to succeed, feeling like you weren't good enough in your career, blah, blah, blah. Even ski racing, because you grew up as a kid ski racing. How did feeling not good enough impact the way you raced?
I probably just could have skied a lot better than even I did, because I was constantly thinking it wasn't good enough.
And now what about in the present? What is the default belief that you're not good? Is it like, how is it still in your life in this moment? Because here's the thing about a limiting belief, guys, is that everybody will look at you on the outside and they'll be convinced you don't have it. They'll be shocked that you believe that about yourself. And that's why it's important for you to be honest with yourself about what your limiting belief is, because it's something you are doing to yourself. So what is the belief that you're not good enough? How is that impacting your life right now, Chris?
Probably has everything to do with just being the point parent. As much as I love being the point parent and having the time with the kids that I have, given your own schedule.
Let me explain what that means. So Chris and I Chris and I, because of the amount of work that I use, Chris is the one that is home more often. He's the one that is really in charge of what's going on with the kids. He has been home for these last 3 to 4 years, playing a huge role in the back end of our company. But the primary role is the parent. And traditionally, at least in the United States, it's the woman that does that. And so it's been, I think, a very fulfilling yet confronting thing for Chris to be playing that role in, am I saying this correctly?
Totally.
Just to bring everybody up to speed?
Just embracing the idea that me being the one at home handling the lion's share of the things at home are, of course, consistent with my negative belief that that's not good enough, that's not being supportive enough.
Is it also with success? Like that's not enough in terms of your own career, even though you founded a men's retreat?
Well,
seriously.
You mean?
Well, you run Soul Degree. You run the Booster Club for the high school. You teach yoga classes. You are a CFO, and it's still not enough. And here's the thing that's so interesting, everybody. I'm going to ask Chris a question he doesn't know I'm going to ask him. If you could go back and do something different these last 3 or 4 years and actually go and work and build a business that's solely your own and not be around, and I mean, would you trade the years that you've had with our kids, the last 3 years, or for something else?
No, definitely not.
Well, see, then that's the thing that's crazy, is here you're sitting here torturing yourself saying, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, it's not enough, it's not enough. But given the option, if we could wave a magic wand and change everything, and the circumstances would be different, but you had to trade the time that you had with our kids, would you do it? The answer is no. So here's the thing that's interesting, and I'm so happy that you admitted to that, because it points out the fact that your default thinking isn't logical. It's just a habit. It's something you've been doing for so long that you don't even realize it. And even though it doesn't serve you, and even though, like Chris just said, he would never change a thing, and yet he still thinks it's not enough. That to me means that there is some automation here that's going on in your brain where it's set on default. Oh, I got to just think I'm not enough. I got to think I'm not enough. I got to think I'm not enough. You know? Well, here's the bigger question. If you allow this default mode to stay programmed in your brain, how is that going to impact your future? Particularly if you think about things like your aspirations for Soul Degree, the men's retreat that you run.
I think that if it perpetuates, then I'm obviously my own impediment to what I want it to be. You know, if I'm constantly in that mindset of it's not enough, I haven't done enough, then how could Soul Degree ever become what it should be?
What do you want it to become?
I think I would love to see it touch as many men's lives.
You're about to cry, I could tell.
Yeah, as possible.
Why do you get choked up?
Just because I know the impact. I've experienced the positive impact that it can have, and it's limitless, I think, in the difference that it could make, regardless even of your age. So
do you see how your limiting belief, the default thinking that you're not enough, will prevent you from?
Oh, totally.
How does it stop you when you think you're not enough? How does it stop you? Like, what are the things that you do when you start getting in that mindset?
Well, it's probably things that you don't do, right? Because if you're not going to be good enough, well, why go do that thing? Whether it's write more or, sort of test the elasticity of what Soul Degree could be also. I mean, it's in a state where there's still so much that we could do to enhance the experience, have it reach more people, which starts with my own. Again, I think part of the limitation is that I've always argued, hey, I'm a shitty marketer. I'm not good at putting the word out, if you will. And even this conversation, talking about something like Soul Degree is...
How many of you can relate to this?
I could be a lot better at that. You're just
stopping yourself, not all the time because of your limiting belief. Like you go to write a blog post about the thing that fills your heart and you're like, ooh, should I really put this out there? That's your limiting belief. That's your default setting. And you're dead right, Chris, and it's the same thing for me and the same thing for Mandy. What was yours?
I'll never get there.
I'll never get there. I love that one. I'll never get there. Yeah. Because you can feel like just the no matter how hard I try, it's never going to be enough. I'm never going to get there. It's never going to happen. And how that sets you up to just race and race and race and race. And Danielle, what's yours?
That I'm not smart enough.
I'm not smart enough. Yeah, I'm not smart enough to do this. And so if your belief, the default that got programmed a long time ago is I'm not smart enough, then you'll tell yourself, I'm not smart enough to write this blog post. I'm not smart enough to figure this out. I'm not smart enough to build that kind of business. I'm not smart enough to attract the kind of person that I want. And the thing that's scary about default settings, everybody, is that not only are they automated in the default network in your brain, but they're a protection mechanism. By thinking you're not good enough, not smart enough, I'll never get there, not a good person, you actually hold yourself back. And that's one of the reasons why we cling to it. And so if you haven't already, because we're going to wrap up this training and I'm going to tell you what's coming up tomorrow and then we're going to answer questions. If you haven't already,
you got to
hear
the quote, though, from Nepo today.
Oh, okay.
It's so on point.
See, Soul Degree right here. So every morning.
It's so cheesy, but
it's
so
not.
good.
Every morning, Chris, and I mostly sometimes, Chris reads from this. This is so tattered. He's been doing it for years. My mom also reads this book every single day. Your mom reads this book every single day. It's a page or two every single day. Mark Nero was fighting cancer when he wrote this, and it's beautiful. So Nepo. Mark Nepo. Did I say it wrong? Nemo. I said Nemo.
But
Finding Nemo.
I'll just read a snippet because it's so on point for January 3rd. That is the 3rd, right, today?
Yeah.
Each person is born with an unencumbered spot, free of expectation and regret, free of ambition and embarrassment, free of fear and worry, an umbilical spot of grace where we are each first touched by God. It is this spot of grace that issues peace. Psychologists call this spot the psyche, theologians call it the soul, Jung calls it the seat of the unconscious, Hindu masters call it the Atman, Buddhists call it Dharma, Rilke calls it inwardness, Sufis call it Qualb, and Jesus calls it the center of our love. To know the spot of inwardness is to know who we are, not by surface markers of identity, not by where we work, or what we wear, or how we like to be addressed, but by feeling our place in relation to the infinite and by inhabiting it. This is the hard, lifelong task, for the nature of becoming is a constant filming over where we begin, while the nature of being is a constant erosion of what is not essential.
Oh.
Each of us lives in the midst of this ongoing tension, growing tarnished or covered over, only to be worn back to that incorruptible spot of grace at our core.
Well, I would say the one word that came to mind when you were reading that was, let's see if I can find it, not essential. You know what's not essential is your default thinking and your negative belief. And in fact, it is essential that you get rid of it. You're awesome. You don't have to go. I'm gonna keep wrapping.
I am
this.
gonna go.
You are going? Where are you going?
I'm sure
he's got a blog post to write because now he's gotten rid of his limiting belief. Bye.
See ya.
Okay. So tomorrow, I want you to write your limiting belief in there. And here's another thing. What is it costing you right now? What are the things you're not doing because of that limiting belief? For me, not being a good person, I think it's the thing that keeps me isolating myself. And it also, I can see how, just like Chris was explaining, that his limiting belief has him not doing things like writing more blog posts and putting himself out there. Even though I'm out there, there's, I think, a level to which I'm not because of this belief that I'm not a good person. So I want you to write in the comments what's your limiting belief and what's it costing you right now. What are you not doing because of it? And I want to come back to the opening quote. You have a choice. You're either going to repeat what you're doing or you're going to evolve it. And when you ask yourself these three questions, what is my limiting belief cost me in the past? What's it costing me right now? And what is it going to cost me if I continue to choose to do it? If I continue to choose to be on default? Hopefully getting in touch with that will help you, give you, motivate you, push you to choose to be deliberate in what you're thinking next. Because tomorrow what we're going to be talking about is how do you create a deliberate belief, one that you don't believe yet. We're going to teach you how to think this, not that. Because it's essential that you have something to go to for when you catch yourself going to that default. So trust me when I tell you, tomorrow we are going to take you from the, oh my God, I need to stop doing this, and into the mode of, okay, I got this. I can think this, not that. What I want to do now, so that's kind of the end of the training. What I want to do now is I want to spend a little bit extra time out of service to answer some questions and to acknowledge a few of you. And so if you were just here for the snack size training, we'll see you tomorrow. The email is going to go out with this link. We are also going to link to the training about visualization because we have gotten a load of questions about visualization. The first question that we've gotten, Lisa Ashley wrote, Mel, what if you don't realize your mindset is negative until you feel physical symptoms of stress, tight muscles, shortness of breath? I'd like to be more aware of the triggers and be able to get out of autopilot and make that change. This is so awesome. Okay, so Lisa, you're ahead of the curve. And the reason why I say ahead of the curve is because most of us don't realize that fear and negativity, it actually begins in your body. And it's really interesting that you raise this question because we did this project with Audible that's coming out in February called Take Control of Your Life. The entire thesis of it is that fear is in your body. And if you learn to read the body signals, you can cut off fear and negative thinking before it even reaches up here. Because your body remembers trauma, your body remembers negative situations, and so your body is trying to signal you that something's up. So one of the things for you, and we're going to get to this later in the program, is for those of you that are asking about, are we going to talk about anxiety? Are we going to talk about triggers? Are we going to talk about PTSD? The answer is yes, 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 yes. You're going to go through a whole day, Lisa, where you're going to identify things that trigger that stress in your body as a way to be able to preempt your thoughts going negative. And so I think it's a really good thing that you have body awareness. For those of you that don't have body awareness, maybe start to pay attention. Do you have stress in your neck and your tension in your shoulders? Do you feel something in your stomach? When your body is doing those things, stop and ask yourself, what is my default set? What is the negative thing I'm thinking right now? And get it out of your body and identify the negative thing that you're thinking. We will get to this, Lisa, I promise, but believe it or not, it's a really good sign that you are aware of the body signals. Do we have another question about visualization?
I got one.
Okay, good. Or anything else that's come up in the comments, Mandy, that you want to throw at me? Because I think a lot of people are really struggling with the limiting belief thing. Go ahead.
Lindsay Haas.
Lindsay, yes?
Is it normal to not be able to visualize or have a really hard time doing it?
Is it normal to not be able to visualize? I think that everything is normal. Truly. Because there's no right way to do life, okay? If you're having a difficult time visualizing a positive future, you're not alone, and there's nothing wrong with you, okay? There's just some work to do, and it's work that you're capable of doing. One thing that you could do if you sit and you think about your dreams, and then you go and you close your eyes and you try to visualize yourself walking into that house that you've always dreamt of, or being in the relationship you've always dreamt of, or looking at your bank account and seeing the savings you've always dreamt of, and you just can't see it, okay, no problem. You've got some default settings that have really settled in. We can still reprogram and reset your mindset, okay? We can still teach you to be deliberate. It's going to take time, just like everything, but we're going to do it in micro steps. One thing that we could try is, let's try the power of objectivity, Lindsay. What I want you to do, if you can't visualize something positive for yourself, pick somebody that you love and visualize the thing that you want for yourself for them. So visualize your mom in that scenario. Visualize your friend in that scenario. Visualize one of your kids in that scenario. Visualize me in that scenario. And so when you see me walking into your dream house, or walking into that job and quitting it, and walking into that new yoga space because you're building your own studio, and you visualize me and you start to feel happy for me, then I want you to visualize me turning and going, Lindsay, you're next. You're doing this too, and you're doing it with me. Use me as the foil to get you to start to train yourself to visualize positive things, and allow me to coach you in your vision and say, you're coming with me. I'm going to be here with you the whole step, okay? Because the power of objectivity works very, very well in lots of other research for decision making, and so I suspect that it will work for visualization too. Mandy, got another one?
I'm looking for limiting belief stuff, but it seems that
somebody just asked me, what if I can't identify a limiting belief?
Oh, see, I've got a lot of good ones in here. I haven't. Is that on Instagram?
Somebody just asked me, what if I can't identify a limiting belief? Then here's what I would say. Oh, paused. I'm going to wait to answer this question because I want to make sure that you hear this. What do you do if you cannot identify the limiting belief? Let's go and look at your actions first, okay? So we're going to work backwards from your actions. If you think about your goals and you think about the things that you need to do, the actions you need to take in order to make your goals a reality. So if your goal is to be healthier and you know that you need to eat better and you need to exercise, but you're not doing it, let's go and look at the excuses. Why aren't you doing it? Yeah, maybe you say you're lazy. Maybe you say you're tired. Maybe you say that you don't have time. But underneath the I don't have time and I am lazy is something else. And it's probably that you think you don't deserve it, or you think that you're not good enough to be healthy, or you think that you're not lovable or worthy of it. So if you have trouble looking at your limiting beliefs, look first at the things that you're not doing. I'm not writing blog posts even though I want to build this business. I'm not working on my website even though I want to build this business. Why? What's the excuse? And then if you go a step beneath the excuse, I'm too tired, I don't have time, I don't know how, what is really the belief you have about yourself that's keeping you from pushing yourself to greatness? You got it? What is that? Because if you go there, I think you'll start to see a theme. All right. Anything else? You have another one you want me to ask?
I feel like one that I've gotten from a couple of
Okay,
people,
good. Yeah.
And they've just been saying, what the hell is wrong with all of us?
What do you mean,
For
what the hell's
thinking
wrong
this
with
way.
all of us? For thinking us this
Yeah,
way?
for thinking these things. What's wrong with all of us?
Okay, first of all, there's nothing wrong with you. Here's my theory, okay? Here's my theory as to how it is that we all got stuck with a negative default network in terms of our limiting beliefs. Human beings require other human beings to take care of them in order to survive. You cannot be born, pop out of the womb, and just make it on your own. You need physical contact. You need other human beings to take care of you. We are hardwired from survival to connect and fit in. We are a pack species, no matter how introverted or shy you may be. And I think that that biological, evolutionary fact about survival makes us super in tune to what the other human beings, namely our parents, are doing. Because we don't ever want to get kicked out of the pack. That would mean we're in trouble from a survival instinct. And so I think as little kids, in order to keep the peace, in order to fit in order to be loved, we basically are constantly assessing what mom or dad are doing. And then we are judging ourselves and coming up with strategies to survive. So you might have had a parent that was emotionally abusive. You might have had a parent that was an alcoholic. You might have had a mom who was awesome but stressed, and you were on edge. And so whenever your mom got upset, you started to think something's wrong with me. Whenever your parents fought, you thought something's wrong with me. Whenever your mom got upset with you, you started to get worried that you were doing something wrong. And so instead of, as a 6-year-old, 5-year-old, you don't have the intellectual capacity at that point to go, wow, mom's stressed out. Must be something at work. We all go, something's wrong with me. And so we start to, not because our parents are doing it intentionally, but based on the fact that we need other human beings to take care of us. We need to be connected to a pack. We need to be connected to somebody, our parents namely. You start to internalize negative messaging as a kid. I'm not worthy. You know, if mom would love me, she would treat me differently. My dad wouldn't yell at me if I were worthy. If only I did something. If I were different, my parents wouldn't fight. If I were different, my dad would be happy. If I were different, my mom wouldn't be so upset. I think that's where they come from. I really do. Do you have anything to add to that?
Nope.
Mandy?
That's actually scientifically proven.
It's scientifically proven?
Yeah, human beings have a need to be seen. And
We have a need to be seen.
It starts at birth because you either are seen or you die.
That's true. Because if your parents are not paying attention to you, you will die. You need to be fed. You need to be protected. You need to be clothed. You can't even walk until you're a year old.
Mhm.
You can't even crawl or scoot until you're 7, 8 months. You are completely, positively exposed and vulnerable. And so I think all of the default mode that you have is either because somebody in your childhood directly said, you suck, I didn't want you, you're not worthy, or you were directly abused, either emotionally, physically, or sexually, and that left you feeling like you're not good enough or not lovable or not worthy or that people are out to get you. Or you were just trying to fit in. And so you developed ways of thinking in order to not make mom mad. You developed ways of thinking in order to not make dad mad. And that was the default. And here's the thing, it worked when you were little. It worked. That's why you kept doing it. No big deal. It worked. Okay? You made it this far. What did I say the other day? You're the oldest, the wisest, the most experienced you've ever been.
Yep.
And that means that you have the ability to make a choice at this point to evolve and become more deliberate. The default mode served a purpose when you were little. Now you're an adult, and it's time for you to get deliberate about how you think. And tomorrow, we're going to be talking about how to create a deliberate way of thinking. We're going to teach you how to go from thinking this to thinking that. It's going to change your life, and so make sure that you look out for the email or just check back on YouTube or Facebook, because we do the live trainings, and every single morning, the month of January, and you can just catch them on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, go ahead.
The only other one that Donna sent me was, how do you help kids identify limiting beliefs?
How do you help
early on?
kids identify limiting beliefs? Think about it like an inquiry. So remember the coaching that I just gave about identifying the things you're not doing. So ask your kids, what are the things that if they had a little bit more confidence or courage, what would they be doing differently at school? What are some of the things they might try? And then ask them, well, why don't you do it now? What are the things that you think about yourself that make you think that you're not capable of that? You can kind of dig it that way. And, you know, I think just asking a lot of questions and doing a lot of listening. You probably know what your kids' limiting beliefs are. I mean, I know I would like to just crawl inside the heads of Oakley, Kendall, and Sawyer and take a bar of soap and just scrub it right out of there and clean out their thoughts so that that negativity, that questioning, that anxiety, that's so part of being a teenager, isn't it? Because biologically, evolutionary standpoint, when you're a teenager, you go through a process of separating from your family. And guess what pack is the most intense and important pack in your life? It's your peer group. This is also proven by science. And so you go from 0 to 13, making sure that you fit in with your parents and you're not upsetting them, to now, oh my God, my peers are life and death for me, and I got to fit in with them. And so then you come up with a whole nother default way of thinking in order to survive that. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's time to get deliberate. You're an adult. It's time to take control of how you think. If you're a kid who's watching this, you can get deliberate too. You can decide what you want to think about yourself. You can decide who you're going to hang out with so that you feel good about yourself. And when you start realizing that you can be in control of the way that you talk to yourself, your life is going to change. From Angie, why is it so easy to fill out limiting beliefs, but almost paralyzing to figure out an alternative, think this, not that? How many of you are having trouble with this? It's very easy to see where you doubt yourself, but it's super hard to come up with the alternative thought that you're going to substitute. Well, the reason why it's hard is because you actually believe these thoughts. And these thoughts have become patterns, and they've become habits, and they've become so prevalent in your life that they're almost like the co-host of your life. If you think about it, you are the star of your life. But if the supporting actor is a limiting belief that constantly tells you that you're not good enough, or that you're not worthy, or that you'll never succeed, then it's no wonder that you believe it, because the co-star of your life is your limiting beliefs. And so it's not easy to change your limiting beliefs, but it is simple. And it begins with you identifying them and then substituting them. So the most, I think, effective way of beginning the process of teaching yourself how to identify a limiting belief and then come up with your own substitute positive belief as a way to change the negative pattern in your mind is to use the power of objectivity. So write down all your limiting beliefs. And I'm going to go through this in detail in just a second. Write down all your limiting beliefs. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. Nothing works out for me. Nobody's going to love me. Whatever the fuck it is that you think that's bringing you down. And then you can ask yourself this. What would Mel say? If Mel were sitting here across from me, what would Mel say? Another thing you can do, you can write the opposite of what you're thinking. And you may not believe it. It's okay. Because what we're doing is training you in a new pattern. And one of the things that Angie asked is she wanted to know, what were my limiting beliefs? So yesterday we sent out this workbook, the Best Decade Ever Toolkit. It's in your email. If you go to the Facebook group, Best Decade Ever with Mel Robbins, it's also listed on the files. You'll find a download for this. Check your junk email if you didn't get it. But so my limiting beliefs. So I want to have the #1 talk show of the decade. And the #1 talk show of the decade right now seems to be Ellen. And so it's interesting because a lot of my limiting beliefs, I think, are provoked by the fact that I'm the newcomer in a space that I have huge dreams of making a mark in and dominating. So one of my limiting beliefs is someone's already done it. How many of you have that one? My dream has already been done. So my substitute thought, because this feels kind of true, doesn't it? Somebody's already done it. And then my substitute thought, the think this, not that, is, well, they haven't done it my way yet. It hasn't been done by me yet. Do you see what I mean? So somebody else has done it. Okay, I get it. It hasn't been done by me yet. It'll never happen. It'll never happen. How many of you have that limiting belief? It'll never happen. My substitute belief, it hasn't happened yet. So I'm acknowledging that it hasn't happened, but I'm adding on the yet as a way to keep my mind in the positive. It didn't happen last time, so it's not going to happen this time. How many of you have that one? Yep. This is what I say. I wasn't ready then. I'm ready now. You know, because it didn't happen last time because I didn't know everything I know now. I'm ready now. I don't deserve it. How many of you have this limiting belief? I don't deserve it. My thought is, if I work hard, I'll earn it. Do you see that? So it flips from a statement where I'm bashing my self-worth, I don't deserve it, to a statement about putting in the effort. If I work hard, I'll earn it. Oh, I've got this story that I'm the bad news bears, that I'm literally like the person with the worst equipment and I'm the underdog and I'm underfunded and why does it have to be so hard and why does it seem so much easier for everybody else and blah, 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 blah. And I flip that into, I love being underestimated and I love being the underdog. In a very weird way, as much as it exhausts me, it also empowers me. Here's a specific limiting belief. How the fuck am I going to compete with Ellen? I can't compete with Ellen. Especially when she's been at it for 20 years. She has the budget of God and an army of people that are supporting her. I mean, there was something she did announce yesterday on social media that I was so like, oh, of course. And I was so jealous. She announced a partnership with Starbucks where she's encouraging people to pay for somebody's coffee using the Starbucks app behind them in line, and then take a video of it and upload it. And they're going to bring them on the show. And I was like, oh, will I ever get there? Will I ever get to do cool stuff like that? And the answer is yeah. She proves it's possible. And also, I can take the 10 years and be like, and in 20 years, I won't even recognize the cool stuff I'll be able to doing if I put in the work. So take that jealousy or somebody else or whatever and say it proves it's possible. Now put in the work. So those are some of my limiting beliefs, and that's how you can do it. And by the way, if you can't do that exercise successfully on your own, post in the Facebook group and tell people this is your limiting belief. Can somebody help you come up with a substitute positive belief so that you can think this, not that? Ask somebody in your life to help you. And then what you do is when you find yourself going down the route of that negative thought, it'll never happen. You're going to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, use the 5-second rule to interrupt the negative belief. And then you are going to insert the positive belief. It hasn't happened yet. That's it. Just keep going. Today's lesson is very short, and it is entitled, Think This, Not That. Yesterday and the past couple days, we have been building on the topic of how you become a deliberate thinker. You have already learned that there are 2 modes in your brain. There's autopilot and the things that you default to, and then there is your ability to deliberately choose what you are going to think about. And when you start to realize and embrace the fact that being a deliberate thinker is a skill, and it is one that I want you to master, and it's one that I want you to practice. Because doing a mindset reset, it's not an event, it's a process. And it's a process that you're going to do over and over and over again. Because the negative and limiting beliefs that you have that are already set to your default, those are encoded in the default network in your brain. And so it's going to be a process that you need to repeat. The second you catch yourself thinking something that is negative or is a limiting belief or is something that was stuck in your mind from somebody in your past, the second you catch yourself defaulting to that, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're going to switch gears and you are going to think about something deliberate. And so yesterday, your assignment was to notice all day long when your mind was drifting to those default negative thoughts. And what I wanted you to do is I wanted you to write down what are the default negative thoughts that you had throughout your day. And many of you were startled to discover just how often you're thinking really nasty things about yourself. You were bummed and a little bit sad to realize, holy cow, I can't believe how often I tell myself I'm not good enough. I can't believe how often I tell myself that my ideas aren't good and I shut myself up. And there were just as many of you that were liberated when you started to realize, wait a minute, this isn't the voice of God talking to me. This is some programming that's set on default. I don't have to live my life and I don't have to have a future where I constantly say things that are negative to myself. This is the most miraculous thing that I've ever heard. And so what I want you to do in the comments is I want you to write what was the limiting belief or the negative thing that kept coming up, because there were a lot of themes. Christine Nichols said that her limiting belief is that she believes she's a quitter. She believes she can't finish anything. And she started to see examples of it over and over and over again. And what she also started to realize is, holy cow, it's a lie. There's lots of things that I've finished in my life, but if I continue to have the limiting belief that I'm a quitter, if I look out to the future, I will be giving myself permission to not go for harder things. I will give myself permission to quit. A lot of the common beliefs that we heard was that I'm too old. How many of you feel like you're too old to get the things that you want in your life? That is super common. So if you think I'm too old to do this, if you think I've run out of time, if you think, who am I at the age that I am or as young as I am to think that I could do this thing, first of all, you're wrong. And secondly, that's a limiting belief that is stopping you. It's a default mode that we need to get you out of. Huge one for you all was, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough when it comes to other people. I'm not as good as other people. And let me tell you something. This is an epidemic, feeling like you're not good enough, because way too many of us spend our days comparing our imperfect lives to perfect strangers on the internet. And so the feeling like you're not good enough, you're not measuring up, that there's some sort of imaginary race that you're running against the rest of humanity, and that by now, at this point in your life, you're supposed to be at a certain place. And how do you know that? Because every time you look on social media, there are hundreds of people in your face that seem to be at the place that you thought you would be. And so that just reinforces it. And oh my God, the default network is getting stronger. If that's how you feel, you're not alone. That was the single biggest one that we noticed in all of your comments from all over the world. I am not good enough. And we heard loud and clear that you got it from your mom, or you got it from your dad, or you got it from some horrible person that you were in a relationship with. And the problem is you started to believe it, and it got encoded in the default network. So now that you've seen it, good job. You can't get rid of the default until you actually spot it. And now that you've seen it, I want you to realize for the rest of your life, you have a job. And your job is to make sure that when that default network kicks back up and you start to murmur that you're too old, you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, that is a moment where you have got to do a mindset reset. And the way that you're going to do it, because you're learning that there's two modes of your brain, the default, I'm not good enough, and the deliberate, oh yeah, I can try, is we're going to teach you that you can think this, not that. That whenever this default mode comes up of I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not enough, whatever enough is, that you can spot it as the default and you can get deliberate and you can say something different. In the body of this broadcast on Facebook, on YouTube, where else are we putting this?
Twitter.
On Twitter. Although it won't be on Twitter, the copy. But in the email that we're about to send you with links to this video, and on YouTube and on Facebook, we are going to give you a very long description of alternatives on how you think this, not that. And we're going to give you some things that you can play around with to insert to start to build a deliberate network. And if you don't like these, no problem. Make something up that you really like. But the point is that if you don't get deliberate, you will be stuck with the default mode of thinking. And the way that you reprogram your default mode of thinking so that the default becomes positive and the default becomes courageous and the default becomes loving is first you catch the negative default, and second, you direct it to something deliberate. So instead of thinking, no one likes me, this is mine because I think I'm a bad person. No one likes me. What I want you to think instead is the right people love me. That's pretty powerful. That's really powerful for me. I constantly remind myself that the right people love me, that the right people are in my life. Instead of saying, oh, nobody likes me or I'm not part of that group, I remind myself that the right people, the people I need, they're the ones that are in my life right now. If you're somebody who says, I'm too old, here's what I want you to say, I have plenty of time. Or you could say, I have so much experience, I'm definitely going to succeed. If you say, I'm too young, then say anything you want, from I have plenty of time to learn what I need to learn, to being young is an advantage, to whatever it is. The point that I'm trying to make is, if your default is negative, I don't want you to think that. I want you to catch it when you do, and then I want you to think this, something positive. If you're constantly thinking, I'm behind, you look at social media and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm losing the race of life. Then I want you to think, I'm on my own timeline. It's not I'm behind, it's I'm doing things in my own time. Another one you could say if you say I'm behind is I'm exactly where I need to be. One of the big things that I always say is that you never move to the next level of your life until you learn the lesson in this one. Instead of thinking I'm not smart enough, I want you to think, if I put in the work, I can do anything. Instead of thinking I'm not smart enough, say, hey, if I put in the work, I can learn anything. If I put in the work, I can master anything. If I put in the work, I can build anything. It's not about smarts. It's about the effort that I put in. That's another thing that you could say. Instead of saying I'm not smart enough, go, well, hey, you dummy, it's not about being smart. It's about the work. Make this yours. If you can make it funny, fantastic, because then that cuts the seriousness that so many of us bring to trying to change our lives. This can be fun, Instead of thinking I'm not good enough, I love this one. How about I'm doing the best I can? or I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm exactly where I need to be. You know, I think one of the most important things that you can do in life is you can ask for what you need. You can ask it of yourself. You can ask it of your work. You can ask it of your spouse. You can ask it of your family. You can ask it of your friends. And you should. Because when you ask for what you need, you are honoring what's true for you. Now, here's the interesting thing. You might not get it. And getting what you are asking for, it's not the point. When you have the courage to stop listening to those limiting default beliefs and start asking of yourself and asking of the people around you the things that you need, what you're doing in the asking is you are honoring the best part of you. And whatever it is that you receive, trust me, you need this right now because you're learning something in it. There is no experience in your life that is wasted. And so I know that many of you, because I've been reading the comments every single day, so has every member of our team, I know that so many of you are feeling at a very low point. I know you're feeling beaten down. I want to tell you something. There is something to learn in this. And one of the places that you can start is, instead of thinking about how miserable things are, and instead of thinking about how broken you feel, I want you to think about how much you've survived. I want you to think about the fact that even though you may feel broken and you may feel scared and you may feel completely overwhelmed, that in order to get beyond this, you got to understand that the world and your future are not broken and overwhelming. In fact, they are there to help you make the changes that you need. I truly believe this. I truly believe this. And so again, today, you're going to continue what you were doing yesterday, because guess what? Now that I've opened Pandora's box and you understand there's a default mode and there's a deliberate mode to the way that you think, and now that you've spent a day looking at how your default thoughts kind of stink and they make you feel bad, and you realize, wow, I could change through deliberate thinking the way that I talk to myself, this is something you're going to practice for the rest of your life. This is not a one and done. This is not an event. This is a practice. This is a process, and this is a skill. And so here's what I want you to do today. I want you to write down what is in the comments, what is your limiting belief, and what is it that you're going to think deliberately when that limiting belief comes up. So for me, when the belief comes up, nobody likes me, that's the default mode. The deliberate thing I'm going to think is the right people love me. The other one that I have is I'm constantly worried that I'm disappointing somebody. Constantly. And so when I'm worried and I feel that spidey sense come up, that tingly thing that's in your body, like, uh-oh, am I disappointing that person? Am I disappointing that person? Instead of thinking that, I'm going to think the only person I have to worry about not disappointing is me, because I'm the only person that I'm in control of anyway. In fact, I just had a big conversation with my daughter about this, about how we get so wrapped up in our lives about making sure other people are okay. And so we aren't direct, we hide information, we worry about things. And the easiest way to live your life is to just speak plainly about what's true for you. What did I just say earlier? Ask for what you need. And that also includes telling the truth about what you're thinking, about what you're doing, about who you're spending your time with. Because the minute that you're hiding information, you're kind of managing stuff with people, you're now in the default mode, because you're managing disappointing people, you're managing whether or not people like you, you're thinking that you're not good enough, so you're lying and hiding information. That's how the default mode and all these negative thinking start to creep in and make you do things that you know you shouldn't be doing. But it starts with your thinking. If you change how you think, you will change your life. Mandy, is there anything else that I should be adding in this? In the email and in the body copy on Facebook and YouTube, we will give you examples for think this, not that, but you can create your own. You're too old, you got plenty of time. You're not good enough, you're going to try. Or, oh yeah, watch me. or I don't believe you. You can come up with anything as long as it empowers you and it's deliberate. And so it's important for you today to write down your limiting beliefs. And then I want you to go through the process, and you can do this in the comments. What is the thing that you're going to think deliberately today? What are you going to choose to say to yourself when your attitude starts circling the drain? And instead of flushing your thoughts down the toilet and the rest of the day with it, no, 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 I'm not going to go down the default network. I'm going to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 make a decision. And I'm going to be deliberate about what I think about today.
The only thing I would say is we got a really great question, which is, how do you deal with it when people are part of your limiting belief? Like,
how do you deal with it when people are part of your limiting belief?
Someone is giving you the limiting belief, like I'm ugly, I'm overweight, or someone is constantly.
Well, first of all, you should not be around those people. Let's be perfectly clear. If you're around people that tell you that you're ugly, that tell you that you're stupid, that is abuse, and you need to find a way to not be around those people, okay? Second thing I do to put up the psychological force field is I assume that anybody that says something nasty to me is personally in pain. And so telling myself that people are saying that to me only because they're hurting makes me flip it so that it's not about me being ugly. It's not about me being bossy. It's not about me being a certain way. It's about the pain that idiot, I shouldn't say idiot, but you know what I mean. It's about the pain that hurtful person is experiencing, and the fact that it's so awful for them to be in their body that they have to do everything that they can to attack other people. Because it's only in attacking other people that they don't have to stop and be with themselves. A very painful place to be. So empathy always works for me for the psychological force field. But be very clear, those people should not be in your life. And if that person is your mother or your father or a relative that you have to see, or a spouse, you got to have boundaries with it. Hey, you can feel that way, but you can't talk to me like that. You got to just, you got to start to, what did I say earlier? Ask for what you need. And boundaries are the biggest version of that. You can feel that way, you can't say that to me. And if somebody's repeatedly doing it, you got to find the courage and the support structure to leave. Today, what we're going to cover is we're going to cover the powerful connection between how you wake up and your happiness, your mindset, and your ability to be a deliberate thinker, okay? So there's a massive connection that is well established in neuroscience, in all kinds of research studies around the world by people a lot smarter than me, that there's an undeniable connection between your happiness, your productivity, your sense of control, the mindset and mood that you have all day long, and how you wake up. Notice I didn't say when you wake up. I said how you wake up. And in today's training, I'm going to explain the science around sleep, mindset, and how you should wake up every morning in order to set yourself up for the most positive mindset, the best sense of control, and the most positive mood and productivity that you could have. This is all based in science. This is not something that I'm making up. And this is also the way that I live my life. And it has been a game changer. After I explain this training, it's going to take about 5 to 10 minutes tops. Then I'm going to answer some questions from the training yesterday about plugging your phone in, and I will preview what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Because we're spending this entire week, now that I've taught you everything about deliberate versus default thinking, I'm now teaching you how to create a powerful morning routine so that your morning routine reinforces your ability to be a deliberate thinker and to have a positive mindset all day long, okay? So we're gonna go step by step by step. You already know that the night before, you're gonna plug your phone in outside of your bedroom, away from your bed, so that when that alarm goes off in the morning, you're not reaching for your phone while you're lying in bed and reading social media and the news, which is gonna make you feel depressed and anxious. That you're getting out of bed and you have the ability to start your day without your phone in your face. That is critical for your mindset. Now let's talk about the actual act of how you wake up, not when you wake up, but how you wake up. And this is science, okay? Super important for you to understand that. If you've been following me for a long time, you've probably heard me talk about the fact that you should never, 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 never hit the snooze button, okay? And let me explain why. Here's how I want you to wake up. When the alarm rings, get out of bed. Period. You want to be a happy person. You want to have a positive mindset. You want to take control of the anxiety, the depression, and the stress that you have. Do not allow yourself, number one, when that alarm goes off, to turn it off and lie in bed and start to ruminate in your mind about everything that you've got to do today and how stressed you feel, and to marinate in those negative thoughts. I do not want you to do that. You're going to use the 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're going to get out of bed. The other thing I do not want you to do is I do not want you, like I used to do, I do not want you, when the alarm goes off, to reach over and tap the snooze button. The reason why I do not want you to ever tap the snooze button is because of how snoozing for a couple minutes impacts your neurology. It impacts your brain function. Again, this isn't something I made up. This is well-established research. You see, I used to be a chronic snooze button hitter. When Chris and I were going through a really rough time, or I notice in times in my life where I'm feeling stressed out or overwhelmed, when that alarm goes off, there's a small hesitation where I start to feel a little stressed and overwhelmed when I think about the day ahead. And it just feels so safe and so satisfying and so tempting to reach over and hit the snooze button and doze off for 9 minutes or 15 minutes. And then the alarm goes off again, and then I reach over and hit the snooze button, doze off for 9 to 15 minutes. And then the alarm goes off again, and then I reach over. And the reason why it's tempting to do that is because you're delaying having to deal with your life. You are giving yourself a false sense of control that I can find 9 to 15 minutes to just avoid having to deal with what I want to deal with. And so I don't want you to do that. And the reason why I don't want you to ever hit the snooze button is because of how dozing off for 9 to 15 minutes impacts the way that your brain works. So let me explain to you the science of sleep. Let me explain to you why the snooze button is such a dangerous thing to do for your productivity, your happiness, your mindsets, your ability to be a deliberate thinker, your ability to be in control of your life. And look, I know that at least 65% of adults hit the snooze button every single morning. So the reason why I don't want you to ever hit the snooze button, and why this is so important if you want to be in control of your mindset, of your happiness, of your mental health state, is because of the science of sleep. So you and I sleep in cycles. And the reason why we sleep, there's a lot of reasons why we sleep, but there's one main reason. Obviously, we fall asleep because our body needs to rest and rejuvenate. But there's another major reason for why we sleep, and it has to do with brain function. When you sleep, when you and I are falling asleep, half of our brain is allocated to running our body functions. The other half of our brain is able to basically just shut off and not really work. And while you and I are sleeping, do you know what your brain is busy doing? Your brain is busy taking all of the memories and things that happened to you today, and it is returning those memories and storing them in your brain, almost like returning books to a giant library system. If you didn't sleep every night, you would have no memories. One of the main reasons why we sleep is because by resting and allowing part of your brain to shut down for a while, your mind has the ability to store all of your memories from today. You wouldn't have any memories if you didn't sleep every night. And so part of the reason why sleep's so critical has to do with your brain function. It has to do with your cognitive abilities. And so the way that sleep works is we fall asleep, we sleep in cycles of about 75 to 90 minutes, and then we start another one. And we go into another sleep cycle for 75 to 90 minutes. And then we typically start another one, and we start another sleep cycle that goes 75 to 90 minutes. And after 2 or 3 sleep cycles, or heck, if you're lucky, 4 of them, your body and brain go into a mode where for about 2 hours, your brain just goes into a state where it's getting ready to wake up. So for those of you that wake up naturally before an alarm goes off, or the alarm goes off and you've had anywhere from 6 hours plus of sleep, your mind is now in a state, it's not in a sleep cycle, where it is ready to wake up, it is ready to start the day, it is ready to be deliberate. If you wake up in that state and then you reach over and hit the snooze button and you doze off for 9 to 15 minutes, what do you suppose your brain starts again? If you're thinking a sleep cycle, you'd be absolutely right. And how long does a sleep cycle last? A sleep cycle lasts 75 to 90 minutes. So you drift off into a sleep cycle, your brain does, which lasts 75 to 90 minutes. All of a sudden, the alarm goes off 9 to 15 minutes later. Your brain is in a sleep cycle. You are in a medical, neurological state right now that scientists call sleep inertia. It means that by falling into a sleep cycle and waking yourself up 9 to 15 minutes in it, the cortic region of your brain is now trapped in a sleep cycle. And do you realize it takes your brain, once you're awake, 4 hours to shake itself loose of the state of sleep inertia? Why is sleep inertia a bad thing? Studies prove that when you're in a state of sleep inertia, it impacts your speed of processing, it impacts your ability to focus, it impacts your ability to do any kind of strategic thinking. So for you, if you're a chronic snoozer like I used to be, and you sleep and then the alarm goes off, then you hit snooze, then you drift into a sleep cycle, then the alarm goes off, then you hit snooze, then you drift into a sleep cycle, and then the alarm goes off and you get up, your brain, you know how you say when you're a snoozer, you're always like, I didn't get any sleep, and you feel so groggy and tired, and you keep saying, I didn't get enough sleep last night. I didn't get enough sleep last night. Guess what? Has nothing to do with how much sleep you got. It has to do with the fact that when the alarm went off, instead of getting up, you started another sleep cycle. And then when the alarm went off 15 minutes later, you woke yourself up, and now your brain is trapped in a sleep cycle. You're in a state of sleep inertia. It has nothing to do with how much sleep you got. It has everything to do with how you woke up. You literally have screwed yourself over. And so here's the deal. Here's one more piece of proof I can give you. You know how on the weekends or on a day that you're not working, the alarm goes off and you decide, oh, I'm just going to turn the alarm off and I'm going to snooze for a minute. You don't turn on the snooze button. You just turn the alarm off. Have you ever noticed when you go back to sleep on your own, how long do you normally drift off of sleep for? An hour to 2 hours. That's because your brain is executing a sleep cycle. You do it naturally. You've had that experience before, haven't you? Where you've turned off the alarm, drifted back to sleep, and holy cow, you sleep for like 90 minutes. That's a sleep cycle. So that's why I never want you to hit the snooze button. Because when you hit the snooze button, you force yourself into a sleep cycle, you wake yourself up in the middle of it, and then the first 4 hours of the day, you are battling sleep inertia. There's only one way to shock yourself out of sleep inertia, and that's to step in a cold shower. So if you ever have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning when you probably are in the middle of a sleep cycle, just step in a cold shower. That'll shock your brain awake, and you'll be out of a state of sleep inertia. If you keep hitting the snooze button, I am going to tell you something. It's going to make your anxiety worse. It's going to make your depression heavier. It's going to make your attitude negative. It's going to make your ability to focus harder. It's going to make your ability to be deliberate harder. And the simple solution is to force yourself out of bed. So, building on yesterday, last night, what you did is you plugged your phone outside of your bedroom so that when you wake up in the morning, your phone is not within reach and you don't grab it, setting yourself up for success. Today, we're now going to do the wake up challenge. So today, here's your assignment. Tonight, when you go to bed, let's build on this. You're going to plug your phone in outside your bedroom and you're going to do the phone challenge so that the phone is nowhere near you. Tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off, use the 5-second rule. Do not reach for the snooze alarm. You're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you are going to get out of bed. If you have to wake up very early, hop in a cold shower. It'll snap you out of it. That's all I want you to do for today. I want you to take the no phone and add in the no snooze button challenge. And I want you to notice how different you feel. I want you to notice if you're a chronic snooze button hitter. Do you feel a little bit more awake? Do you feel a little bit more focused? Do you feel less groggy than the mornings when you hit the snooze button over and over and over again? Because you know what? The answer is yes. You are going to feel less groggy. Yes, you are going to feel more awake. Yes, you are going to be more in control and more deliberate about what you're thinking about. And so that's all that I want you to do today. Continue to notice your limiting thoughts and then redirect them to something more positive. Remember, it's not an event to have a positive mindset. It's a process. So all day long, keep noticing where you feel like you're not good enough. Keep noticing where those limiting beliefs are popping up. And now we're adding in the skills that give you boundaries and discipline and habits that protect your mindset. Plug the phone in outside the bedroom. When the alarm rings, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get your butt out of bed and do not hit that snooze alarm. Will you be angry at me? Most likely. Am I okay with that? You better believe it. Because these small changes, while they're irritating, you're capable of making them. And when you make them consistently, what's going to happen is you're going to start to gain control of your actions, of your mindset, and that's going to have such a game-changing positive impact on your life overall that I'm willing for you to be annoyed with me as you get out of bed every morning, because your dreams deserve to come true. And you deserve to live without anxiety. You deserve to live successfully with depression. You deserve to feel less overwhelmed and less stressed out. And it all comes down to these teeny tiny little tweaks that you're making all day long. I'm not going to think I'm not good enough. I'm going to think I'm willing to try. I'm not going to think nobody likes me. I'm willing to tell myself that the people that are around me love me. I'm not going to think I'm an imposter. I'm willing to think through hard work I can learn anything. By making these small changes, you will change absolutely everything.
Your book, The 5-Second Rule, can you talk about how that in this situation can be beneficial and how you use that?
Okay, great. So the 5-second rule is a simple little brain hack. Has a lot of science. It's going to sound dumb, but it's really, really powerful. In a moment where you're either hesitating or you're thinking something really rotten, like, oh, there's an awkward pause in this conversation. I bet she doesn't actually like me. You're inserting something. Just count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1s. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the counting backwards interrupts the negative thought. So the second I start counting backwards, as my mind is telling me, oh, this person must not like you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're like, boop, slap you out of my mind. And the counting backwards makes this part of your brain focus on the counting. And the second that you get to 1, you have a moment of control. And that's where you can insert a different thought.
Yes. I love that. It's so simple. And that is your superpower. Simplicity is your superpower. I don't know if anyone's told you about it, but simplicity is your superpower. And I think that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because we always have to change those limiting beliefs. And I say into liberating affirmations, but you also work a lot with limiting beliefs.
Yes.
Right? And can you kind of dive into that and like how you really work with your limiting beliefs on a regular basis?
Well, so staying on the 5-second rule for a second, the 5-second rule is extraordinarily powerful because step 1 of breaking and replacing limiting beliefs that have probably been in your brain for a lifetime. And when you really start to examine them, might actually be generational.
Yeah.
So your limiting beliefs may be your mother's limiting beliefs and your grandmother's limiting beliefs and your great-grandmother's limiting beliefs, because the human brain is designed to learn patterns. So if you hear somebody either being hard on themselves or being hard on you as a child, you tend to adopt that pattern of speaking as your own to yourself. And so step 1 of breaking and replacing limiting beliefs is to start to become aware of what those beliefs are.
Right.
And so for today, the next week, whatever, I want you to just notice when your mind or your mood drifts to a negative place. And it's important to just notice it. That's it. just notice it. You're not going to be able to replace it just yet because you're so used to drifting into this negative landscape. And, you know, the experts that study thought patterns say that we have between 50 and 80,000 thoughts a day. Mm-hmm. They estimate that between 80 to 90% of them are negative. And so your resting state is likely negative. And so the first step is, let's just start to pay attention. And there's a simple way to pay attention. You don't even have to be paying attention to what you're thinking about. Just pay attention to whether or not you're present or whether or not your energy is low. That's it. If your energy feels kind of low, if you feel kind of heavy, if you feel kind of like just in a negative emotional state, I guarantee your mind's probably negative. So that's step one. Step two, when you start to realize you're there, just immediately take control in 5 seconds. Count backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It'll snap you out of autopilot in the subconscious negative state into the conscious part of your brain. And then say this: I'm not thinking about that. I'm not thinking about that. And I want you to start there because we cannot trust you. And I'm saying that for real. You cannot trust yourself, having thought these negative things for this long, to actually successfully punch them in the face and then replace them with something positive. We got to just get skilled at spotting it and interrupting it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm not thinking about that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm not thinking about that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm not thinking about that. And for the first week, you might say, I'm not thinking about that 73 times a day. But what you're doing is you're doing that hand to fist combat with the negative thoughts that run on default. You're like, punch, no, I'm not doing that. Punch, I'm not thinking about that. 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 Then you can get into what you're talking about. Let me pick up the book because I promised to read it. Let me give you 3 steps, everybody. We're going to pick up the book at step 1 on how you create new beliefs. Okay, you ready? You're going to get 2 videos for the price of 1. First, I explain why mantras are bullshit. That's basically page 91, 90 through 91 in this book. Now I'm going to teach you from page 92 to 99, the 3 steps to creating new beliefs. Okay, you ready, everybody? There are 3 steps to creating new beliefs. You're going to love this. Obviously, you can use the 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, that I created to interrupt any thoughts. How many of you would love to create new beliefs about yourself? Okay? We're moving on from mantras and affirmations and why most mantras and affirmations are bullshit. And it's believable, and align your actions with that and continue to repeat it throughout the day. A believable mantra, something a little bit smaller, is going to create momentum, belief, and confidence in self. It's a way to buoy yourself when you're bobbing up and down in life. Now we're going to move on, and I want to teach you how to create new beliefs. Right now, before I teach you the 3 steps, what is a new belief that you want to have in your life? Everybody, what's a new belief that you want to have? I'll tell you a belief that I'm struggling with. This is going to sound kind of crazy. Chris and I are in the middle of building this amazing house in Vermont. And our son is going to high school up there. And I'm sitting in our house outside of Boston, Massachusetts. And I have been alone here for the last 6 months because I've been coming back and forth because we're under construction in order to get work done. And nobody's here. It's like me and our cat, Mr. Noodle. And it's really lonely. But I have lived in this house, everybody, for 24 years. And the belief that I am wanting to create is that it is time to close the door, to start a new chapter, to make Southern Vermont more of my full-time place, and to rent an apartment in downtown Boston. And I'm struggling with that. I'm struggling with that because I've lived in this house for 24 years. This is where we raised our children. 2 of them have gone and left. And our son is now at the public high school in Vermont. And I'm having a really hard time letting go. I'm waking up every morning. I'm having these nightmares that we're going to sell the house. And then 2 years from now, I'm going to be driving by, stalking the new owners and crying because I regret selling the house. That I'm going to get up to Vermont and I'm not going to like to be up there all the time. And I'm going to wish I had not sold our house. that I'm going to get down to Boston and be in an apartment. I haven't lived in an apartment in 27 years, and I'm going to hate that. And so I want to create a new belief that it's going to be okay. And in fact, that it's not only going to be okay, this new chapter, but that it's actually going to be amazing. It's going to be the best thing that I've ever done. Now, do I know if that belief is true? No. And in fact, I have so much fear about selling the house that we raised our kids in and starting this whole new chapter. I'm afraid I'm not going to like it. I'm going through the same thing that you probably are going through right now. That my fears have like a stranglehold on me. But I so desperately want to believe this. There's a part of me that can just feel that it is necessary. There's a part of me that feels like a ghost in my old chapter as I'm walking around this house. Now, here's a funny data point. My parents still live in the house that I grew up in. So my parents are living in a house that has 4 bedrooms and no kids are there. And they've been there ever since I left. My God, I left when I was 18. How old is that? 33 years ago?
Yeah.
So I have never had the experience of having to leave a family home. And it is just like right here. And I'm fighting with myself about it. So do you relate to this story, everybody? That there's something that you want to believe. There's some change that you want to make. There's something that you're called toward, but you're just scared. And it's your old beliefs that I'm going to regret this, or this is going to be a mistake, or what if this doesn't work out, or what if this is the worst thing I could have ever done, or what if that, right? And so this is where I am. And I want you to think about what's some change that you want to make in your life and the belief that you need to change in order to really lift yourself up and support yourself through the process of changing. The belief that I want to have is that this next chapter is going to be the best chapter of my life. And that no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. That really, it's not about a house, everybody. It's about the people that are in the house. And now that I'm here alone, boy, is that true. But I'm so scared to let go. All right. And you know what I love? You guys are so cute. Everybody's trying to solve this problem. Just rent it out. Then you can keep it. Right? You're going to be okay, Mel. No problem. Mel, just rent an apartment. Use this as the production studio. Like, you love that you guys are problem solving. It's true, I could rent it out. But I feel like there's something bigger here. You know, everybody, where you just know it's kind of time to let go, where it's let go of a relationship or a place or a friendship or a career, that there's some big move, right? And yeah, I think I'm taking my time with leaving a family home because it is a big decision. 24 years in one place is a big thing. Having roots somewhere is a big thing. And so my belief and the belief that I want to change is about okayness. It's about the permission to take a risk and to dream and to trust myself. Because, you know, when I close my eyes, just like when you close your eyes and think about this change that you want to make, you know what's right for you. Yes, Faye says it feels like a part of you will die if you leave. The truth is, a part of me does need to die because I'm no longer in that chapter of my life and I'm holding on to it, right? So what are the 3 steps to changing a belief? And now that you have the belief that you want to change, what is the belief that you want to change, everybody? Describe in the comments what's holding you back. What's holding me back is I may regret this decision. And once I sell the house, there's no going back. I want to believe I'm going to be okay no matter what I decide. That I need to trust my heart in this one. That in order to open the door and step into this next chapter of my life, I got to let go of the handle and close the door on this past one. I'm not getting choked up. I just have cat hair that just flew in my mouth. So hold on a second. Here, now I'm going to sneeze. This is how you know it's live, everybody. So step number 1, you're going to love this tool. And I write about this in the High Five Habit. If you have not bought a copy of this book, and you can, please do. It's extraordinary. It's in 41 languages already. It only came out in September. And it's changing people's lives around the world. And we're on page 92, everybody. But step 1 is a simple tool. If you catch the negative thought, like my thought sounds like, fuck, 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 fuck. What if I sell this? What if I never see my kids again? What if nobody visits me in Vermont? What if I fucking regret selling this house? What if I get to a goddamn apartment building in Boston and the people above me are having sex every night really loud and there's a dog next door and I hate the building and somebody's cooking something every day and it smells like shit and I can't get out and I hate my street and I don't know where to park. Like, this is how crazy my mind is starting to go around this chapter and this change I want to make. Okay? So 5-second rule. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Interrupt that shit. Okay? That's number 1. Number 2, I'm not thinking about that. Say, I'm not thinking about that. I'm not thinking about that. I'm not thinking about that is literally a karate chop to the craziness in your head. Every single morning when I wake up in our bedroom here in Boston, I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I selling? I just go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm not thinking about that right now. Step number 2, I talk about this on page 94 of the book. Step number 2, note to self. Let me explain what that means. Okay. That's Becca, do you have, could you grab me a Post-it note so I can show these guys? Note to self. You already know, oh, here's one. Oh no, these are not sticky. Oh, fabulous. Look at that. Okay. You guys want to see something funny? These are my Post-it notes. This one says busy as fuck. I love this one. Hey Mel, keep up the okay work. Isn't that awesome? Keep up the okay work, Mel. There you go. Little boost from Mel Robbins to Mel Robbins. Step number 2. Post-it note. Write a note to self. Here's what I would write. You ready? You're going to write a believable mantra or affirmation. This is where believable mantras come in. You ready? When you have a negative belief that starts haunting you or worries, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, interrupt it with a 5-second rule and then karate chop it in half by saying, I'm not thinking about that. Because the fact is, you don't need to think about that. Most of the things that you're worried about right now, a month from now, you're not going to be even worried about it, okay? Most of the things. So when you catch yourself worrying or trashing yourself or ruminating, use the 5-second rule, take a 5-second moment of control by counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then karate chop that shit in half by saying, I'm not thinking about that. If this is a chronic belief that you want to now insert to teach your brain, I want you to use a visual cue. This says, trust your heart. It knows. You will be okay. Notice I didn't say, sell the damn house, you're going to be fine. That would actually scare me. Notice I didn't say, stop being a chicken shit. That would probably make me nervous. This is believable. Trust your heart. It knows. And you will be okay makes me feel okay. And having this note to self, which is basically a believable mantra, that is what I'm going to use as the 3rd step. So step 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5-second moment of control. Step 2, karate chop that shitty thought with, I'm not thinking about that. Step number 3, use a visual trigger in a place you're going to see it. I like to put it on my bathroom mirror. I like to put it on my laptop. I sometimes put them on the back of my phone. You can take a photo of this and make it your screen saver on your phone so you see your own writing in an unexpected place. And this keeps this new belief front and center. Now remember, the belief needs to be something within reach. How many of you believe this statement, trust your heart? Right? Yeah, of course you do. I think your heart often knows the answer, and sometimes it just takes your mind a little while to catch up. And how many of you believe that this is true? You will be okay. You may not be okay right now, but you will be okay. Like all the difficult decisions and all the scary things that have happened to you, this moment too, this decision too, it's going to pass and you're going to be okay because you've always been okay. So now let's go and see what else. Now, here's the thing. Step number 4. This is everything that I'm always teaching you. Step number 4, act like the person you want to become. Act like the person you want to become. What does that mean? What that means is if I want to be the kind of person that trusts my heart, that knows that I'm going to be okay, what does that kind of person do, everybody? What does the person who trusts themselves and who knows that they're going to be okay do? Can you think of some actions that that kind of person takes? I know some actions immediately. That kind of person always journals, right, about what's in their heart. That kind of person is kind to themselves. That kind of person takes their time and is patient with themselves. And that kind of person is doing the work to support themselves. That kind of person is telling themselves that they're going to be okay. And so this last piece, number 4, act like the person that you want to become. This part's critical, and this is why most mantras and affirmations don't work, because just saying something isn't enough. The belief becomes real when you start taking actions that are aligned with the new belief. The new belief becomes real. The new belief becomes encoded in your brain, in your nervous system, in your neural pathways, in your habits, in your systems, in the way you talk to yourself. Your new belief becomes real when you take actions that are aligned with the new belief. I did not make this up. This is an entire field of study called behavioral activation therapy. Absolutely everything that I teach you is grounded in behavioral activation therapy. I am trying to make you understand that before you feel like the person you want to become, you need to start acting like the person you want to become. Before you feel ready to go to the gym for the first time in a year, you need to push yourself. Use the 5-second rule. Take a 5-second moment of control. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You need to push yourself to act like a person now that has already got a habit of going to the gym. That's how your belief that I deserve to be healthy and I can figure out how to do it, that's how your belief goes from just a statement that you say to a 5-second moment of control. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take the action and act like that person. Go to the gym. For those of you that want to write, for those of you that want to grow your business, ask yourself, what does a person that is a successful writer do every single day? They write. Before you feel like a writer, you need to make yourself take actions that a writer takes. So that as you stand and you start to say, I can figure out how to write a book. Over time, I could write a book. But then if you leave the bathroom after saying that to yourself, you now need to push yourself to sit your ass in a chair and do what a writer does, which is write about 500 pages of horse shit before you have anything worthy of sharing with somebody else. If you struggle with growing your business, I guarantee you, you're not doing the work that would grow your business. You're thinking about all the reasons why you can't. We need to invert this, everybody. You need to start saying, I am capable of figuring out how to grow my business. I am capable of pushing through the fear and picking up the phone and selling. I am able to figure this out. And then you need to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take the actions before you're motivated, before you're ready, before, like, when you're afraid, you can still take the action. When you're hesitating, you can still take action. When you don't feel ready, you can still take the action. Action is the only way you're going to change your life. And by the way, action is necessary. You have to decide what you want to believe, and then you got to do the really hard work to push yourself to take the action before you're ready. That's the only way that you will change how you think about yourself, how you think about your life, how you think about your future. By deciding what you want and pushing yourself to take action 5 seconds at a time when you're scared, when you're anxious, when you're not feeling ready. That's how you change anything. And that's how you put it all together. Now on page 99, you're going to see a photograph of a woman who took these 4 steps, everybody. She started interrupting the negative bullshit in her mind. She started saying, I'm not thinking about that. She created all of these notes to self that are right there so she sees them every single day, the believable things that you're improving every day. That's right, you are. I'm proud of you. These are things that you can believe. And then, more importantly, she is getting up every damn day and she is high-fiving herself in the mirror and she is slowly but surely doing the work to change how she feels about herself. So, in summary, here's the things I want you to do. Number 1, and I'm on page 100. Never leave a bathroom without high-fiving yourself in the mirror. Never leave a bathroom without high-fiving that person you see in the mirror. Because the high-five action takes programming in your mind, overrides negative self-talk, and aims all the positive programming associated with a high-five right back at your face and your identity. Number 2, if you have not taken the High Five Challenge, highfivechallenge.com, get your ass in the High Five Challenge. It is a free 5-day challenge that I lead, 5 video trainings. It is hosted by my friends at Growth Day. I've arranged for you to be able to be on the app for free. When you are done with the High Five Challenge, you can either join Growth Day, but you don't have to. You get the challenge for free. Once the 5 days is over, just make sure you get into our Facebook group. Our Facebook group is, what is it, High Five Crew?
Yes.
So can they search for High Five Crew?
Yes.
So you can just search for High Five Crew. We'll put a link in the comments below to High Five Crew, everybody. And that's it. Use the 4 steps I just gave you to identify the negative beliefs and to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, interrupt them, karate chop them with, I'm not thinking about that. Make a note to self of what you actually want to start to believe. And then, most importantly, use the 5-second rule. Use the high five habit and push yourself to take the actions, the little actions, everybody, that change the entire trajectory of your life. That's how you change, period. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for checking this video out. And if you like this one, I have a feeling you're going to like this one too. I'll see you there.